Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to day 21 of the holiday card series. We are getting so close to the 25th card video. It's crazy. Just so you know, I will have a couple days in between when the holiday card series ends and when Christmas actually happens. So I'll do a couple special videos then as well. So hang on after the day 25 video too. For today's card, I'm going to make, I think it might be my favorite shaker card I've ever made. It turned out so great. I'm going to use some distressed reinkers for some watercoloring on the background. I've got a great sequin mix from Lucy's cards that's going to go in there. And then I'm using these brand new full cover shaker adhesive sheets. I don't know what to call them, but they're from Waffle Flower. I think most places they're sold out right now, but if I find any that are in stock anywhere, I will link to them. I'm really hoping that they'll be in stock by the time you guys see this video, but just in case it's not, keep it in the back of your mind, to make shaker cards for Valentine's Day or for birthdays or things like that. Check back and get some of these shaker card, whatever they're called, because they're amazing. All right, let's get into it.
I'm starting out the creation of the shaker card by creating the back wall piece of the shaker. So I'm going to be doing some watercoloring today with distress reinkers. Some of you who have been watching my videos for a while might remember that I sort of had an obsession with this particular technique right before the holiday card series started. Frankly, I'm surprised it's taken me this long to do one. The colors today I'm using are Villainous Potion and Mermaid Lagoon, and I've put down on my work surface this slick surface. This is the replacement mat for the Tim Holtz glass media mat. And I'm putting two rather large droplets of the reinkers down on the surface. Today I'm using a size 14 round brush from Royal & Langnickel. And before I get painting, I almost forgot, I'm going to grab my distress sprayer, just a spray bottle, and I'm going to spray my watercolor paper. It's just a faster way to get the paper completely wet before I start painting. So now I'm going to go right into the painting, and you can see that that intense purple just starts flowing. There are a couple of reasons for that. I sprayed my watercolor paper, and so there's lots of water on it, so the water is going to move, and it stays intense like this because the reinkers are so intense. I don't add any water to the reinker section on the side of my work area here. All I do is get my paintbrush wet and then go into the reinker. So the opportunity for super saturated color is absolutely there. You can see how these colors just mix with each other. This first layer, they don't mix as much with each other. There's definite sections of color. You don't see a lot of the blue and the purple mixing. Rather, you see sort of like lined border areas. So this is what happens when you do the pure color onto wet watercolor paper with no other color in between, or down below, I mean. So I'm going to sop up some of the larger puddles of liquid that are on the surface of my watercolor paper, and then I'll get into drying this. Before I get to the drying, I think I'm going to add one more little darker section at the bottom, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not. I'm going to go ahead and start drying. I'm using my WOW Dual Heat Embossing heat gun, and I'm using it on the stronger setting so it'll dry fairly quickly. So now I'm going to go in and do a second layer of color. I could have left it like this. It looks beautiful, but I'm going to add another second layer of color, and I'm using the paints in the exact same fashion. They're super, super concentrated, but as they're layered on top of the color below, you start to get a little bit of a mixture of color. I'm going to get more of a purple, blue shade as they go on top of each other. And I'm also not painting every single spot on my watercolor paper. I want some of the harsher lines of, painting right up next to a dry section. So I'm going to leave some of those sections alone. There's a lot of blue happening at the bottom of my project, so I'm going to grab some more of that Villainous Potion and just bring it into the bottom right down here. It's going to mix in some of that color. And at this point, I'm going to heat set it with my heat tool. And I have this really cool looking background. You definitely could leave it just like this and not add anything more, but I wanted to have a few areas that broke up the larger areas. So I'm spraying water into my hand and then dropping it onto the surface of the watercolor paper. What that does is it reactivates the distress ink below the water. And then when I put a paper towel over top, it pulls up the color. It's almost like a bleach effect, and it lightens those areas. You can see how that looks right there. I wanted even more of this effect to show on my background, so I've dried it, and I'm going to come back in with even more water. And this time I did a combination of some in my hand and some also just straight from the spray bottle. I'm going to put my paper towel down again, and you'll see even more of those droplets showing up. So I'm going to dry this one more time, and then I'm going to call this background finished. I think it's a great background. I have a plan to use a snowflake die cut on the card, so that's why I chose these colors. It looks kind of cold and frosty. I'm using these shaker covers from Waffle Flower, and these are actually really neat. I've tried these full card shaker cards before where you use just any piece of plastic, and it's essentially this, but this is easier because it has the adhesive attached. So there is a film on it that you remove. And I'm going to show you two different ways to assemble a shaker card with these shaker covers. This first one is what you only adhere it to the card base and you just put it all together all at once. So I'm starting out by taking the Ocean Sequence Mix from Lucy's Cards, and I'm going to put it just right down into the center of the shaker. And I'm going to kind of arrange the sequins, make sure I don't have too much in there. And then I take my watercolor panel and I'm going to turn it over and put it right on top of those sequins within the area of those kind of adhesive flaps. And then I'm going to move everything over to my Misty, just because I'm going to use the corner of my Misty for this. And I'm going to fold down these edges, make sure they're absolutely ready. So the plan is I'm going to go ahead and adhere this directly onto my card base. So I'm peeling up the adhesive strips, and these are super sticky. So sticky that you want to be really careful. In fact, if I was to do this again, I probably would only remove one of these to get it stuck to my card base and then carefully remove the other three. So I'm starting at the bottom, getting it lined up in the corner, and then pressing down really well. And it adheres so super strong to the card base. So then when I lift it over and open it up, you can see how beautiful it is. It's crystal clear. It's kind of amazing how great it looks. All right, so I'm going to show you one more way you can put this together, which might be a little bit easier, but it does involve more adhesive. So I've got this piece of printed vellum, foiled vellum. It's from my mind's eye from a few years ago, so I don't know that they sell it anymore, but this is what I'm using today. To remove that film on the shaker cover, I found it easiest to use a sharp object, so like a craft knife or some scissors, just to catch it. Just make sure you do that over one of the flaps, and that makes sure you don't scratch the actual area of the shaker. I then put my the backer of my shaker area down, and I'm going to adhere the flaps to the back of my pattern paper here. I'm essentially going to enclose in 3 of the sides and create a pocket. And this is what I've done when I make a DIY full card shaker. I just use some plastic and I do this exact method. So this is what we're going to try here today. I'm going to remove the adhesive strips on all 3 sides and just adhere it to the back of my vellum piece. And this is going to give me a little bit more time to make sure I have everything precise and adhered down and get the pocket ready for all the sequins. This is a little bit of less pressure than the first one. The first one, since you're doing all the adhesive in one go, there's a little more pressure to get everything just right. So there's my pocket. And for this one, I'm using Let's Harvest sequence mix from Lucy's Cards. And I'm just going to be showing you how this shaker was created. I'm not going to finish the card in this video today. I'll be doing that with my first shaker example that I showed. So I'm just putting in a bunch of those sequins, making sure I have a nice amount. And then I'm going to release the paper on the adhesive. I'm going to peel that up and fold it down. And that will complete the shaker area. Now, all you would need to do is just adhere it to the front of a card base. I found that when I did it this way, it was a little bit harder to get it to stick. And I even used super, super strong adhesive. It was just a little bit more cumbersome to get it to stick to the front of the card base. So even though it was more difficult, I think I'll go with method 1 when I make another one of these. I'm using the stitched snowflake frame from Lawn Fawn, and I've just cut that out of some white cardstock. And then for my greeting, I'm using the Reverse From Me Christmas Sentiment Strips from Simon Says Stamp. There's lots of great greetings on this one. And you actually get 4 sheets that have the same greeting. So you have 4 of every greeting. I'm using liquid glue to adhere the snowflake die cut. This is some precision glue from Honeybee. I'm using a set of tweezers to hold it while I position it over my card. And then I'm going to press this down with my fingertips, try to get a really good adhesion to that clear plastic. And then I'm going to take an acrylic block and just put that over the top to hold it down. So now I'm going to work on the greeting. I put some foam adhesive on the back, and I'm just putting that in position directly over the center of that snowflake. And I love that I have 2 greetings. I got the main greeting and then the secondary line as well. Okay, so this completes the shaker card for today. I think it just looks magical. There's still plenty of room inside for the sequins to move around, and it's so sparkly and pretty.
Don't you love that shaker card? Oh, I love it so much. And I like that it's a little bit more flat, so I can send it through the mail without much of a problem. And you still have all that sparkle and shine kind of shaking about in there. I think it turned out so amazing. I kind of struggled with what to put on top of that snowflake die cut from Lawn Fawn, but I'm glad I went with the sentiment strips. It turns out really well. Okay, so for today's holiday question, tell me your craziest or funniest Christmas memory. Something that's really funny or something that just crazy that happened around the holidays. Let me know down in the comments. I love reading all of your comments, and I do read them. I don't always respond because there's a lot of them, but I love reading them. It's so fantastic. So let me know your craziest holiday experience down in the comments. I'll be back on Monday with day 22 of the Holiday Card Series. Until then, have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday.